Looking for fascinating conversations with industry thought leaders? Want to get the inside scoop from local legends? Interested in the stories behind the stories from celebrated visionaries? This is your home for the best our university has to offer. Welcome to We Are IU.
Hi, and welcome to We Are IU, where we bring the best of Indiana University to your headphones. I'm your host, Natty Metter, Associate Director of Alumni Engagement at Indiana University Alumni Association. I have the pleasure of being joined by two rock star career coaches. Erin Irwin is a two-time IU graduate and career coach. She is the Director of Career Education at the Walter Center for Career Achievement at IU Bloomington. Affectionately dubbed the career therapist by her clients, she provides career transition, career success, and leadership coaching to individuals across all industries and career levels. Mike Schmeckerbeer is a two-time IU graduate, career coach, and senior lecturer at the Kelley School of Business. So let's get started. I'm really excited to talk all things career today. You all talk about how you came into your profession as supporting and thinking about career development, professional development on a daily basis. So I'm excited for the conversation today, how we navigate getting a job, how we navigate transitioning, especially as you think about the different life stages that we're in, how we can advocate for ourselves, things like, does a cover letter really matter anymore? I mean, I'm excited to talk about all those things. And in the spirit of not taking linear paths, as you are thinking about advice or perspective you give people who come to you, could you talk a little bit about how you go about looking for a job when you don't know where to start, right? You just graduated, you just left a job, and you're trying to look for a new one, and there's so many different options out there. It feels really overwhelming.
So the approach that I use is it's called life design. And life design is based on design thinking principles, which is a way of solving problems that don't have one right solution. And so when I work with coaching clients, we start just by understanding what matters to them, where they are today, what's brought them to the place they are today. And then thinking, about what is it that they want out of their career? Why are they thinking about a transition? What matters to them? And then doing some ideating, having fun, exploring, letting go of all the practicalities to see what might be out there. And then starting to move into action, right? So often in life, we just want to jump into the action, but that often just lands us places that we don't want to be. It takes us someplace new, but not necessarily where we want to be. So that's where I would always tell people to start, is really having a sense of empathy research, reflection, what matters, what am I looking to change, what's the life that I'm dreaming of, and how do I do this in a thoughtful way?
That's great perspective. And I think the marriage of some time to slow down to really think about like my values and what I'm really looking for, my life stage, and then marrying that with, the professional strengths that we have, that we carry. And it sounds too a little bit like it's much easier to do that with someone else, not just by yourself, right? And so Mike, I'm not sure if you have any other perspective as we think about those who may have been sitting in the position of being in a career for a while. What kind of advice you've had for those types of folks?
I think one thought for me is this idea that our careers are this nice, neat little package. And I see that especially with like young new grads I actually see this with my students I work with who are like, I'm going to have a major in marketing and a minor in psychology because they go so nicely together, or accounting and finance or whatever. And I often be like, get a minor in something that is so out there and completely different, because our careers are not a nice, neat package. And I do think if you surveyed lots of people, the 80% or more would tell you they can't believe that they are. They had no plan for this to be the case. If you look at them in their 40s or 50s, that their career is nothing that they imagine it being. So, but to your kind of question about like, I'm looking at maybe career switching, it's one of the hardest things I think for anybody to do. Sadly, I think too many people stay in something that they aren't real happy with. When we spend 50 hours of our week doing that work, more time than we get to spend with our families, more time than we get to spend doing our hobbies. And so it's sad to me when people sort of just settle in and do that when they don't get anything out of it, when we really do have the ability to do
Okay,
it.
so let's talk about that. I think that's really interesting, especially for folks who, I mean, because what I hear is patience. And like there's an element of patience, right? In terms of being in a new role, and you're like, I really don't know if I'm supposed to be doing this. Or in a role for a while, and all of a sudden realizing or having that inkling that like maybe I'd be interested in doing something else. I wonder what kind of advice you are able to provide folks or coaching to provide folks to be able to flex the strengths that they have in roles that they might not like because their job description doesn't say they could do it, right? I'd love to hear perspective of how you've encouraged people to advocate for themselves to be able to showcase some of that sort of strength.
Maybe not directly answering your question, but a large client base that I work with is women, probably women in sort of that midlife stage. And for whatever reason, they're in a lot of transition. And when we go through transition in our lives, that's when our values start to shift, right? So maybe they were a stay-at-home mom and their children have gone to school. Maybe they're going through a divorce and all of a sudden they're finding themselves having to provide in a different way for their family. Maybe they just, are really career driven and looking for a promotion. But I think those transitions are where we find ourselves all of a sudden like, oh, I've been happy or I've been good about what I've been in, and now something's changed. And so I think that's why that values reflection is so important, to be able to name the change that you're looking for so that you move to a goal that's going to be satisfying. And then the other thing that comes to mind is if we don't believe our story, nobody else will. So when you go into an interview or into a networking situation or go to your boss for a promotion, whatever it is, like you have to truly believe that my skills matter. My skills are relevant. My story matters. The things that my ambitions are good, and being able to convey that in a way that demonstrates humility and confidence, and can really point to the objectives of the organization and how you can fit those. Being able to tell that story is what's going to allow you to make whatever that transition is, whether it's from working at home to working in the workplace, whether it's to getting a promotion or shifting into something else entirely.
That's great perspective. I appreciate that. Any other reflections, Mike?
I mean, every time I work with anybody, I always say, like, if you want to do this, you have to figure out what are you willing to sacrifice to do it, and how long are you willing to wait. And you often find in those conversations how badly somebody actually wants something. And it's also doing a values assessment, like what is important to me. And for some people, it's money. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. We should own the fact that money's important to me. Money provides for great vacations for my family. Money provides and allows my kids to go to college and graduate without debt, right? Like, or it could be time. It could be happiness. It could be doing good. I think that values assessment stuff is really important.
Okay, so like where were both of you when I was trying to get a job right out of college? Right? I mean,
Yeah.
seriously, I
Well, we're
think
probably in our
We were trying to
we
figure
were,
out.
we were
Yeah,
probably
students.
we were probably all trying to figure it out together.
yeah, exactly.
I think about that though. I mean, that is like resoundingly like wonderful advice and perspective to give someone that's getting ready to graduate, right? Or that is just new in the workforce. So to have the perspective, okay, so I've just graduated, let's say, and I get to go through all of these really wonderful things with Mike and Aaron, and I figure out that like, oh, value assessment, like, so I have this stuff in my brain, and I'm going to go out into the workforce. Tell me a little bit about how I can marry that as someone in getting ready to job search with what the job market's looking for.
I always sort of look at this kind of the job searching process, all that as a pyramid from the standpoint of like years of experience. So when you're coming out, 0 to 3, 4, 5, you're at the bottom of that pyramid. So it's wider, right? Which means like there's a broader amount of opportunities available to you. The further you go, you get into 15, 20 years, you're up at towards the top of that pyramid. It's more narrow. There's less opportunities. So I often will talk with students who are just graduating and young alums about like this 0 to like maybe you can, I don't know, be curious what you think about this too, but like this 0 to maybe 7 years out is an exploratory time. Like, our career exploration doesn't end when we graduate from college. In fact, it's just beginning, really. Like, our brains are developing. We don't know. We know a microcosm of what's available. Like, I mean, I just can't believe that. Like, working at Kelly and the Alumni Career Services, I was just blown away by the amount of jobs that are out there, and the economy is just so massive. It's really amazing. But that time is exploratory time. I mean, this is where we do a job for a year, we do a job for 2 years, and you do that 2 or 3 times, and you're 6, 7 years out, and you've learned a lot and you've explored, and people forgive for those short-term jobs as long as it's not 6 months, 6 months, 6 months, 6 months, 7 different times, right? But people understand, like, I'm exploring, and then you finally figure out what it is that you want. And so I think that's really important for young graduates to understand that you don't have to know exactly what it is, and what you first time you have out of college is not likely going to be the one you have 10, 15 years later.
Very cool. I mean, it's good perspective, especially knowing that just because, I'm in this role right now doesn't mean that I can continue to expand my knowledge and
Absolutely.
my skill set, right?
Absolutely.
Here at IU, we're committed to supporting our students and graduates at any phase in their careers and at every stage of life, which is why we're excited to share an incredible resource with our loyal alumni, Career North, a series of self-guided career and professional development e-courses designed to help you start strong and journey on. Available for free to IU alumni everywhere. Learn more at myiu.org. And now, back to the show.
So as we're thinking about I'm still in the I just graduated state, right? Or I'm getting ready to start this interview process. Things have changed. There's a lot of change. For anyone that might be sitting and listening to the episode and they are in the process of updating their resume, which I think is important to do at least quarterly, right? Update their resume. As we're thinking about preparing ourselves to come in with the best foot forward, how can I get myself ready? Are things like cover letters important? Any tips and tricks you have around job interviewing, I think is something that I'm always looking for perspective on.
Yeah. Well, I think when you think about all your whole application package, you have your resume, you have your cover letter, you have your interview, you have your networking. So you should be thinking about all 4 of those components and what role that they're going to play in your search. So with a new graduate, their resume is showcasing maybe some experiences and their education, but really what it's showcasing is their potential, right? And a piece of paper has a limited ability to showcase that potential. So I guess why wouldn't you write a letter that would help support that, tell that story? Because humans make decisions based on emotions, right? We want to feel something. So write a letter that makes me feel something, that makes me say, wow, this person, they've got skin in the game. They're interesting. They're excited. I want to talk to them.
Mm-hmm.
With that in mind, I always recommend people apply for less so that they have more time to invest in really customizing those materials so that they speak to their audience. If you're just clicking to apply to 100, 1,000 positions, I've heard it all, you just don't get interviews unless you have the direct experience that they're seeking, which most new college graduates don't.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say, yes, every college graduate should be writing a cover letter, and they should be writing it from their own brain, their own thoughts, rather than relying on AI to do that, because it's not going to make that emotional connection in the way that they want to be effective. But we haven't talked about networking, and I would say that is the number one thing that a new graduate should be doing. So if you apply for a position and you've taken the time to write the resume and to write that thoughtful cover letter, the next thing you need to do is go to LinkedIn and say, how am I connected to this job? How am I connected to people who work for this organization? And how can I reach out to them through LinkedIn, through even perhaps a phone call, to make a personal connection, to put voice to that resume and cover letter in another way, because all of those things are going to, again, get people invested in you and give you that chance to interview. So that's really what you're working toward with a resume and cover letter in networking, is getting to the interview. It's not to get a job. You're not going to get a job offer off of those, but it's to get you in the interview. And then in the interview, you get to really go into more depth into your story.
I 100% agree with Aaron. Like, you should submit a cover letter because it's just more, right? It gives people an opportunity to learn more about you. It's taking the extra step that even if they don't ask for it. Now, sometimes when you go to submit your application, there is no room to submit a cover letter, right? They just only ask for a resume. So, and that, if that's the case, then you have to sort of follow what that is and maybe get an opportunity to say, I also wrote a cover letter, and you can email that in if the opportunity presents itself.
Well, what I hear is that a lot of this around, as we think about readying ourselves for career moves, readying ourselves for the next thing, transitioning into something new, is storytelling. Can I tell my story well? And that's a really great segue, I think, into the power of having a human like Aaron or Mike in my corner as I'm thinking about things like career and professional development, and not even just career, but life development and transition. And I'd love for you all to provide some reflection or thought around your work, around what it is to be a career coach, about perhaps some of the benefits and the best parts of your work.
As a career coach, like, my goal is to meet you where you are, to understand what matters to you, to help you see that path forward, to provide the advice, experience, resources to get you where you want to go. I think that's a unique role that we don't often get in life, is someone who's just all for you and isn't going to try to influence you that you're making the right or wrong decision. Just reflect back to you. Hey, this is what I hear you saying. Hey, your face just lit up. Did you know that? Like, what's causing you to have that energy response? That's one of the magic moments as a career coach. The other thing that I see is that people feel so alone when they're going through this process. They feel like nobody else is going through this but me. One of the things I love to do is group coaching, because it accomplishes so many things. One, you realize you're not alone, and you develop this network of friends and supporters who are also going through the same thing. Plus, think about that network when you have 5 people in the room together, sourcing off one another. I think that can be a really effective strategy. But you're not alone. Lots of people go through this. We experience it over and over in our lives where something shifts and we need something different and we have to go figure it out. So those are some of the things that I enjoy the most about being a career coach.
You can see why she gets the career therapist.
I was just thinking that.
I've known Erin for a long time, and she's amazing and just fantastic, especially in the career counseling area. But I mean, hearing those things, reflecting back, seeing your face light up, like that's you to a T, and you can see why she gets that
It's
label.
great. And her, it's cool too, I think, is like her face is lighting up talking about it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Which I think is important, because I think it's great. What about you, Mike?
You're so right about this feeling lonely and feeling scary. When reality is, like, there are so many people who are miserable in their jobs, and there's so many people who are job searching. We just don't talk about it.
Oh,
yeah, we don't. We just don't share it. We don't talk about it. So we feel alone. And sometimes you're like, oh, I can't tell people because I don't want to get back to my current employer. And so we do. It is nice to have somebody who's doing this with you, and we can't see our own roadblocks, and that's what a coach, I think, does, and installs belief in us that we can do something, and takes a look at our resume and says, you're missing this and you're missing that. You should add this. Why did you cut this part out of your resume? It's so good. Or you need to expand on this more. Or interviewing is 100% that way. I just had a coaching session this morning with a guy who was preparing for an interview this afternoon at 3:00. And we kind of walked through, and I'd be like, okay, time out. Like, you left out this really crucial part. You told me about it when we were just casually talking. Like, why can't we fit this into your actual answer? And so I think that's a role that coaches play that's really, really critical. I mean, you can do your research and you can prep with the interview as much as you want. And it doesn't necessarily be a coach. You could talk with an experienced friend or, an experienced colleague that you trust that, you can practice an interview with or share your stuff with. But I do think it's so critical to have that second person, that partner, kind of going through it with you.
I once heard someone say, you can borrow my belief about you today. And I really liked that, because I think oftentimes we don't do a very good job of being able to say, like, I'm really, really good at this.
Yeah.
And saying it out loud to someone, especially in an interview or whatever that is. And so I appreciate the perspective of two career coaches to know that that you can help create this team, right, for people to navigate the next steps. And before we wrap up, I'm so interested about work-life balance. Like we hear about it all the time. I think, Erin, especially I think in some of the things you were talking about, working with women, transitioning women, from, being, doing stuff at home and coming back into work. Similarly, doesn't matter, female or male, work-life balance. Is there such a thing as work-life balance? How do you coach people into understanding work-life balance and being able to navigate what that looks like?
You have to know what the work-life integration that you're seeking looks like to be able to create that. So I do work with a lot of women. I think women do carry a lot of psychological ownership of the household on top of their job. So a lot of women who feel very guilty for being career focused. And so that's something that we have to work through. Like what are the benefits to your family and what does peace look like for you? And then others who, are looking for that more traditional work-life integration of like carving back. And for those folks, I would say like look for small ways to do that, like taking a walking lunch. A lot of times people talk about health with their work-life integration, like I don't ever exercise, so what does it look like to add in a tiny bit of exercise? Like I'm going to stand up every hour and take a lap around my building. Start with things that you can build into habit and then grow on them. Because if you say, I'm going to take every Friday off,
Right.
you're going to do that once and you're never going to do it again.
Yeah.
So build sustainable habits would be something that I would say around work-life integration. Be at peace with your priorities.
And I think I'd add to, I love that, the whole sustainable thing. I love that. That's like so true.
Well, and it's such a good reminder of the importance of having conversations early and often, right? To be able to speak about the things, advocate for the things that we need. I've had lots of conversation with people who've helped me along the way, being like, I don't think in reality you're gonna be able to accomplish all that, Natty. Get to work at a certain time, drop your kids off at school, then go and do this thing. So I think it's a good reminder of making sure that you wrap around other people in your life to help sort of spot check you to say, this is what I really think you can accomplish. And if you're trying to do this over here, let's try and make room for that. But to have a conversation about that's important.
And it's a give and take. So, I mean, you mentioned a great example of like, in the mornings with kids, right? Like you may say, it's really important to me that I'm home with my kids in the morning and I help get them to school and I send them off and I want to hug them and and get them ready and that they're with me. As a result, I'm happy to stay till 6 or, I'm willing to stay a little later to have that time in the morning. Or it's really important to me that I'm home when my kids get home from school and get them settled for a half hour or an hour from 3 to 4. And then I'm happy to come back and I'll give up my lunch break in order to do that. Right. Like you find out these are things that are important to me. And then it's a give and take of work-life balance with your employer.
Sure. Yeah. Well, gosh, I really appreciate this time. I was thinking as we were having our conversation about, these episodes and the podcast is We Are IU, right? And we're talking about all of the wonderful things that Indiana University does and that our alumni are accomplishing. And the really unique part about this today is that you all both work and serve for Indiana University and you're both alum of IU too, which is really cool to see that you're helping a lot of different people here within the framework of the university, and that Indiana University has probably given back something to you as well. Mike, we did talk at the very beginning that you co-founded Career North. I'd love to hear a little bit more about that before we wrap up today. Career North, what is it? Can you talk a little bit about your business?
Yeah, so in a nutshell, Career North is basically, if you think like a LinkedIn Learning or a Coursera, where it's online e-learning courses available to you. And so we expanded to a library of over 200 lifelong learning and professional development courses, from stress management to what do I do? I'm in my first job, first time on the job. What do I do? All kinds of things, managing a budget, all that stuff. So IU is one of our clients, and so you can access those courses through the IU AA website.
Great, and it's such a good reminder of all of the resources that we have available at us for career navigation. I appreciate that.
Yeah, sure.
And as we've said before, I think it's being able to understand how many different resources are out there to tap when we're thinking about career movement, when we're thinking about career development, professional development. So as we wrap up, I wonder if you have any other final reflections, for folks who are listening today?
Having worked at the Alumni Association for many years and connecting with IU alumni through that platform, and then now working for a student-facing center, the IU Alumni Network is powerful and strong and dedicated and smart, talented. So you reach out to people. People are so eager to help, and nobody asks. Everyone to the fear. The note on fear, people are afraid to ask. But if you don't know where to start with your IU Alumni Network, reach out to a fellow alum and have a conversation.
It's actually unbelievable how large our network is. And I think it's just understanding the resources that are available to you, especially as an alum, and tapping into all of that. I mean, you can utilize us. We volunteer as coaches for reduced fees, and so there's just so much available.
That's so great. Gosh, thank you both so much for all of this, Aaron and Mike. I've taken so much away from this. So like cover letters, super important. We have to do them. Trusting the process, coming up with a value assessment, and really being patient is such a great reminder. So until next time, we are IU, and we'll meet again. Thanks.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of We Are IU. Your home for fascinating conversations with thought leaders, legends, and visionaries from the university we know and love. New episodes available monthly at myiu.org.